Okay, so what we've got here today, guys, is 23 degrees on a Saturday at about 8:30, 8:45. So Pat and I didn't go out fishing early this morning. It was just ridiculous cold. I have family in from out of town. I'm supposed to go over and have some coffee with them, but they're like, dude, don't come over before 9, it's just too early. And I'm like, all right. So what I have is this little Ned Rig Crawdaddy thing with some gold fleck, and I've got my favorite colored PBJ. I don't know if you can see it. My favorite colored PBJ BX Brat from Rapala or Rapala, or however you want to say the word. So I'm hoping that the ground isn't too frozen because I have this tripod on a stick. So I'm just going to do one continuous roll and just let these batteries run out and hope that it works out. I think that'll work. I'm going to start with this little BX Brat just to have something to throw in the water. It's probably going to be a little too fast moving for these fish, but I just kind of want to see how it swims, how deep it swims, and if it works. So bear with. Oh yeah. Cast nicely. Oh yeah, the look is great. And get it to stick out here in the mud, in the water. That'll be kind of cool. Let's try that. So the BX Brat 2 to 3 foot divers, they are pretty shallow. They go to like, now I'm throwing it on braid, so they're not getting down as deep as they would with Flouro, but they're going down like 2-3 feet, like they say. So if you want something that gets down 4 to 5, 6 feet, you probably want to go with the BX Brat 6. That's what I'm thinking. I'll put this down for a little bit because I don't think this type of lure is going to be the trick today. I think we need to sit on the bottom. Let's see what we can come up with here. It's not a very fun way to fish, but ooh, I had a fish, y'all. I think. Try that again. Getting some grass down there. So this is the Z-Man craw that I'm using right there. The little whatchamacallit, what do they call that? Ned Rig head, or Ned Rig, or rigged like a Ned Rig. I'm wondering now if I should have used the 4-inch worm. That would have been a better enticing meal for these guys. Yeah, it's crazy. My line's actually frozen up. All right, you can hear it. Watch when I cast. It won't cast very far at all. Oh, whoa, when did he get here? When did that bird come up behind me like that? It's cool because no matter where I cast, I can always just change my camera angle. Hey guys, Joe Simpson here. Sorry, I didn't catch any fish this weekend. I did my best. I went out and gave it a shot. It was 25 degrees both days, and I just had no luck and no patience for it because it was just way too cold. So being that it could be a cold winter, I might have to buckle down. I'm going to talk about some terminal tackle, some lines, some rods, reels, baits, and kind of get geared up for spring. I'm going to keep fishing when I can, and I'm sure I'll catch fish, but this weekend was a rough. So I wanted to talk about fishing line today. There's a lot of different types of lines and different theories on why to use certain lines in certain locations. Water condition, temperature, the fish bite, the type of fish, where you're fishing, what kind of tackle you're fishing, all that stuff impacts the line you choose and maybe even the rods and reels that you choose when you go out. So I wanted to talk about fishing line, but I wanted to start right off talking about Gliss Line. I don't know if you've ever heard of that stuff. It's claimed to be the longest casting line made. So basically, I want you to look at the used portion over here and the unused portion over here and look at the difference. That is absurd. So let me just talk to you a little bit about the Gliss Line and why I got it. I wanted something that was a little finer, a little easier casting, and wanted to just give it a shot. And it was 24-pound test, and it was much, much, much thinner than anything that I saw in the braided line section. So I thought this would be great. I could tie a leader onto this. I could use really fine line and maybe use a stronger line and get away with it. But if this line touches anything, a rock, a stick, anything under the water, it's prone to breaking off, or like it doesn't have any like abrasion resistance, and it just puffs apart. It completely puffs apart. After you use it about 10 or 15 times, this got wet and froze over the weekend, and it's just like ridiculous. I mean, you can't use it. So let's talk about different lines. You've got fluorocarbon, you've got braid, you've got mono, and you've got different kinds of braids too, and different kinds of fluoro, different kinds of whatever. If there was a line that I would say I would use all the time, 24/7 on all my rods, and let's say I'm not talking about spinning gear, just bait casters. Like, is there one line that you would say to somebody, hey, go get this, use this generically all the time, and you're going to be probably okay? I would say that's probably a 25 or 30 pound braid in like a moss green. It's durable, it can hold up to some heavy cover, and it's going to hold up to big fish. It's going to be light enough to throw with lighter lures, and it's fairly invisible in dirty water, but it's going to show up, you know, if you need something that's more finesse, it's not going to be as good. When I first started fishing, I was pretty much set that I wasn't going to be one of those guys that use different lines for every single scenario, every single time I went out fishing. But over time, I've become one of those guys that actually will change my line based on the conditions, because it does help a lot. Normally, I throw 30 pound braid just about on everything pretty much throughout the year. So if I'm doing a whopper plopper, or you know, I'm swimming different baits in the summer, topwater lures, things like that, I'll throw like 20 to 30 pound braid all the time. Now when I go frogging, 30 to 40 pound braid, I really don't put on the 50, 60, because I'm not hogging these fish out of like deep and heavy cover like you see on the YouTube channels or on TV or whatever. So 30 pound braid's about it for me. That's good enough. So a couple of things that I've gotten into recently though, on my spinning gear for the winter, I've put on, and this isn't a high dollar line, I'll probably get roasted because people may not like it. This is Berkeley Vanish, and I put it on my spinning rail. I have 8 pound test. I chose 8 because it's not super light, it's not going to break. I'm always afraid of breaking off, and it's not so heavy that it won't cast well. I have a 3000 series reel on a 7-foot rod, and it seems to work perfect. And they say that fluorocarbon is invisible, and that's why you would use that line. And another reason I'm going to use straight fluorocarbon on my reel is because I'm running into problems with winter related to icing. So when you use braid, braid has more of a saturation attribute where it'll suck in the water and hold it, because it's like a cloth or a fiber or some type of porous type of line. And so what happens is you start to freeze your line, it gets ice on it, and it acts all weird and does weird things. So I went straight to fluorocarbon. So when I get to those really, really cold days, I'm going to be finesse fishing anyway. So I think fluorocarbon is going to be the way to go. Another line that I'm going to try out, and I'm not sure how it works. You guys can maybe chime in and let me know if you've used it before. This is spider wire. It's called Invisi Braid, and they claim that this is translucent. Looking at it, you can tell that it's not as invisible as fluorocarbon. Let me pull a little bit out here. You can see that that line is easily seen with the naked eye. It's not like it's semi-translucent or transparent. It might act different once it's in the water, but it still is a little harder to detect than the moss green. So it might be something I can use if I'm not really wanting to go with the fluorocarbon in the winter, throwing like my cranks and my jerk baits and stuff on it. It might work out good, but you know, I think the fluorocarbon's the way to go in the deep, deep winter when you're moving real slow and you got to be super finessey. Now, Pat is a super big fan of J-Braid 8. J-Braid 8, I think, is excellent line. Its diameter on average is smaller than most other braided lines, and it seems to be very, very strong, at least rated for what it says. And he uses it quite often, and he's pretty happy with it. He uses that all the time. And then 2 other lines that I picked up just to try was, because I have so many Cast King products, I picked up the Cast King 12 pound, and I have the Cast King 30 pound. And like I say, I usually don't go much heavier than 30 or 40 pound on anything anyway. If I'm fishing frogs, I'll go 30 or 40, but really 30 pounds all I do. The Cast King, I can tell the diameter is a little heavier. It feels a little more ropey. The J-Braid has more finesse. It's more supple. The loops fall easier in the line. The spider wire, at least on initial inspection, is a little stiff and waxy, but I think that's going to loosen with water use and time. And then, of course, one of the drawbacks to your fluorocarbon could be that you end up with a little bit of line memory. You know, like when your line has that like wiggle and twist in it, it might cause you problems when you're casting. I do like the fluorocarbon for these Ned rigs and finesse baits, because when it's in the water and you see it moving, you literally can't see the line. You can see the bait moving and doing things, but it's really hard to detect the lines. If you're standing out there in 25-degree weather, you're freezing your butt off, the wind's blowing, your hands are freezing, your hands are cracking from getting dried out from the weather. You want every advantage you can get. So you definitely want to use the fluorocarbon when it becomes a finesse situation. The braid is a good all around. I'm going to use this Invisi Braid, which is translucent. We'll see how that does. So I really don't have a favorite yet. I know J-Braid's Pat's favorite. I think the Cast King stuff seems to be very, very durable. Although it's a little bit heavier, I don't think it casts quite as far as some of the other braids, but I think it's really, really strong. Don't dismiss the classic monofilament Stren. You know, I went fishing down in Georgia and I took some Stren line wired up on some of these rods, and I just, you know, was fishing with the mono, and I forgot how much I really liked mono. It has a little give, a little stretch. You know, when you're rearing down on these fish, it tends to kind of just be a little bit more forgiving in the whole system. So mono can be a good line too, you know, straight up mono. So try them all, see which one works best for you. And I'd love to hear your comments below, like what's your favorite line? Like I'd like to hear like when you like to use certain lines in certain conditions, how you configure it, whether or not you do braid, if you do like a mono leader, or if you do braid with a fluoro leader. Yeah, I'd love to hear all your input down below, because I'm definitely not an expert. I'm not claiming to be. Just wanted to give my 2 cents on fishing line. Again, sorry I didn't catch any fish. I'm going to keep trying. We'll go out again soon. I'm going to be out of town this weekend, so I may not get any time on the water, but I'll be back in action before you know it, and we'll be pulling in a few donkeys. So you guys hang in there. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you coming around.